Welcome to Comfort Zone, a podcast all about pushing your hosts, well, outside of their comfort zone. I'm Christopher Lawley, and each week I am joined by two incredible co-hosts, but this week we're missing one. As always, I'm joined by Mr. Matt Birchler. Matt, how are you doing?
Oh, Chris, I'm doing fantastic. Happy New Year. We took a week off, and I feel like it's been a million years since we've done this.
I know, I was talking to Danielle about this, my girlfriend, and it was like we recorded on a Friday when we normally do, then took a week off, and then now we're recording on a Monday because we're recording a little bit later because scheduling, and it just feels like we haven't chatted in forever, even though we talk over iMessage. So it's nice to see you. It's nice to chat with you. We are missing Niléane. She just had something come up. Should we have our audience send her something on like Mastodon or something? How about favorite cat gifts?
Yeah.
That's something she would appreciate.
Cat gifts would be perfect right now.
Yep. Yeah. Send her some cat gifts. She's not here this week. She will be back, but send her your favorite cat gifts on Mastodon or whatever. I don't know, all the places. But
definitely Mastodon.
Definitely Mastodon. Yeah, let's be honest. That's Niléane's place. But we still have a show for you all, and I'm excited about this one. I've been really excited to talk about the challenge for this, but that's at the end of the show. But you and I have a couple of things to discuss first, and I'm first up in the document, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot, especially the last couple of weeks, is my yearly theme. Now, for those that don't know, yearly themes are not resolutions. They're kind of a guiding North Star. And this is 100% something I am stealing from the Cortex podcast. This is
okay. I'm glad you said it.
It's not, I'm not trying to take credit for it at all. 100% curbing this from them. Not original to us or me at all. I do not get any credit for this. In fact, we're going to put a link in the show notes to their podcast. I highly doubt anyone that's listening to this hasn't heard of Cortex, but probably listens. I'm going to go ahead and guess the Venn diagram is
pretty close to a circle.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm not tripping over this one too much, but the general idea, if I could give like a TLDR, is New Year's resolutions. A lot of people be like, I'm going to go to the gym 4 times a week or 5 times a week. And the first week you don't go 4 or 5 times, you've technically failed your resolution. But with a yearly theme, they're more of guiding North Stars. So you would have, instead of, I want to go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, you would have the year of fitness. And your goal, your guide for the year is to be more fit, to do things, be more fit. And, be like, hey, do I really need to order pizza for dinner, or could I just, make some chicken or something? Or, I got some time to kill. What could I do? Oh, maybe I should go to the gym. It's that kind of thing. You think I did a good job there explaining that, Matt?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Like it's more of a guide for when you have a chance to make a decision or when you are trying to be mindful of what you're doing. Your theme should be what kind of guides your choice. Like you said, I'm hungry. Oh, it would be nice to get a pizza right now, but if it's the year of eating healthy or fitness or whatever, then maybe you do something different and you try to use that to guide yourself. So yeah, I like the idea as well. The Cortex show is fantastic. One I've been listening to for many years, and yeah, their yearly theme episodes, they get way into it, probably more than we will, because they go on for hours. But it's very, very good. It's a very cool idea, and aligns better with what I feel is practical. Because, like you said, resolutions are tough, and you just fail them most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think anyone's ever properly completed a resolution. Like if you say you're going to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, most people probably didn't go 4 or 5 times a week. And also, first time, like
Yeah, and they're like very ambitious. That's the other thing that I think trips people up, is like going to the gym 4 times a week. Well, you go 0 now. So are you really going to make an enormous life change? Are you going to like lose 50 pounds? Are you going to write that your first novel when you wrote 0 words last year? Like, resolutions like to be like very ambitious, and that's cool. And if they work, amazing. But I think that is another reason why they kind of fail more often than they succeed, is people overreach. But this is more of a direction you want to go.
Yeah, and so for me lately, I've been kind of reviewing all the business stuff, my personal life, and just kind of like reflecting back on how 2024 went for me. And for me, my yearly theme for 2024 was the year of growth. I wanted to focus on a few key aspects of my life, mostly personal, and my relationship with my girlfriend and work stuff. And for 2024, I did it. I think I did a decent job. There's a few curveballs thrown in there, but the personal side of the year of growth. My girlfriend and I moved in together. I think that's a pretty huge
That's a
step.
big one.
That's definitely a very big one for us. So on that side, I think things went really well. Another like again, not a goal, but like something I wanted to accomplish this last year was to get a new studio. I moved a couple years ago into a condo, and I could not get my filming and studio and office set up to a place I liked it. It was a really weird room. It was this long but not very wide room. It was terrible for my needs. So, built a new studio, did great there. The other thing I kind of wanted to like really focus on was growing the channel, and that didn't really turn out that great in 2024. It was kind of a weird year. Anyone you talk to in the industry, ad sales were in the toilet last year. Like the ad business was absolutely horrible. So I spent a lot of time, I'll just say I spent a lot of time last year fighting sponsors, trying to get paid, like way more time than I've ever spent. In fact, last year I had a sponsor, basically just close their doors. Before, well, it wasn't let me back up. It wasn't the sponsor. A lot of times companies will work with these like advertising agencies to find YouTubers and creators and stuff like that to kind of partner with. Well, this middleman company closed their doors after I put out the ad and the video. And this was something that took months and months of work. I've never put so much work into an ad, like hands down the most amount of work. They closed their doors after the ad and the video was out, and they got paid, but before I got paid. And let's just
fun.
say, yeah, and let's just say the insolvency company is like, yep, we're more focused on paying back the banks than we are paying you. So,
that's tough.
Channel wise, it was a little rough last year.
Yeah.
Like.
That is interesting. Like, because you're thinking more about business wise growing the channel.
Yeah.
Literally, because this is your job. This is I need to make money. I need to make a living. How did you do in terms of like subscribers and views over the year? Was that similar or was that more positive?
I would say it's slightly more positive. I think I'm in this weird spot with YouTube where right now, when I put out a video, if it's iPad related, it does really, really well. If it's anything else, it might do okay. Most likely it doesn't. I'm kind of like, the algorithm has figured out I am the iPad guy. And this wasn't a very strong iPad year. Yes, we got the new M4 iPad Pros. Those are great. They also launched iPad Airs at the same time. Because they launched at the same time, the iPad Air, it kind of got swept under the rug, forgotten about a little bit, because there really wasn't anything that new, that exciting about it.
Yeah, that was basically a processor bump, right? Like, I guess there's the 13-inch, but like, it's bigger.
I've literally never seen a 13-inch iPad Air out in the wild.
My dad had a first generation iPad Pro, was his iPad Pro, and his iPad, and he was like, I need to update this. He just bought a 13-inch Air because he wanted the larger text size. Because he's like, I can still see everything, but the text will be bigger. There's one.
So there's exactly one in the wild.
Shout out to my dad, keeping that product afloat. But yeah, I don't see a lot of them either. But Yeah, I don't know because it works with the new Magic
Yeah.
Keyboard too, right? Like, so
No, it does not. It's the old
oh,
Magic
no.
Keyboard.
It's the
So
old
that's
one.
why. So
Okay, right.
when I talked about, I made a whole video dedicated to the new Magic Keyboard this year. And when I talked about it, I love the new Magic Keyboard. The new Magic
It's so
Keyboard
good.
is significantly better than the old one in lots of different ways. I
It's
think we've
fantastic.
even talked about it on the show here, so I won't
Absolutely.
rehash it all. But I was just like, and the old Magic Keyboard and the new Magic Keyboard are the same price. So it's like pay a couple $100 more, get the really nice OLED display of the iPad Pro, you get the M4 chip, you get Thunderbolt, and you know
Mhm.
what? If you're gonna get the Magic Keyboard, get the new Magic Keyboard, get the new iPad Pro because it's significantly better in just about every way. And every complaint people had about the old Magic Keyboard, this new one is a bit better. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I am a firm believer in the new Magic Keyboard.
Yeah, for sure. I would go so far as to say if I had to if it was technically possible and you forced me to like go back to the old iPad Pro or the old Magic Keyboard, I would keep the new Magic Keyboard and go back to the M2 iPad Pro. That's how
I see.
much
I see what. Yeah,
in the combo, that's the part that actually brings me more value, I think, than the OLED screen is like it's an awesome product, but like the keyboard is incredible.
yeah. The keyboard. I mean, the keyboard is one of those things. I use it so much. I mean, the old Magic Keyboard had quality issues. I went through three of them. I'm pretty sure I publicly talked about that, but like
I think so.
I broke two of them, just wore them out because of how much I use them.
Oh,
So
not from
yes,
like watching WWDC where they don't have any iPad updates for you and you just slam it on the table.
slam it on the yeah. So that's the other side of the iPad story this year is there wasn't really anything in iPad OS that was specific to the iPad Pro. There were a couple of things like Smart Script. I did get to interview a couple Apple executives this year. I went back up to Cupertino after WWDC and got to interview a couple Apple executives. That was really cool.
That was really awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So we talked about Smart Script and the calculator feature, Math Notes. I was totally blanking on that for a second, but there really wasn't a lot iPad OS related, and that's kind of my bread and butter. Like I focus heavily on software. I do hardware reviews here and there, but I'm not one of those YouTubers that reviews the same piece of hardware 6 times and just being like iPad Pro 1 month later, iPad Pro 2 months later, iPad Pro 3 months later, and so on, because
Mhm.
it's just the same thing over and over again.
Yeah. Well, this is not to go down a rabbit hole, but this is one of the things that I think I see a lot is people are like, I don't want to see a review of a product you've only had for a week or something
Yeah,
like that. And they're like, I want to see like an extended review. The two things about that number one, those extended reviews don't get as much interest. So
never.
they never get as many views because people have moved on. It's not in the zeitgeist anymore.
Yep.
And two, I think if you're a reviewer who's been doing it for a long time and have experience and are good at it, you don't need that long to decide whether this is an iPad that's good, bad. Um, Same with phones. Like if you've reviewed 50 phones, you can tell pretty quick how this phone is going to be. You don't
Yeah.
need months to, yeah, just figure that out. So I think it's totally valid to review them right away. I think the later on ones can be interesting sometimes, but yeah, not quite as good.
But yeah, getting back to the yearly themes. So channel wise, year of growth wasn't great. But I feel like I kind of like stuck myself in a corner. So
Hmm.
uh, one thing I want to do, and I'm going to address this year, is I'm going to branch out a little bit more, and it's going to take a lot of work because, like I was saying, the algorithm knows me as the iPad guy. And the way the YouTube algorithm works is you essentially are training it with what you're putting up. So if you're stuck as the iPad guy, but you also want to do iPhone apps or Mac apps, you just have to put a bunch of those videos out there and let it get kind of caught up in the algorithm, and it'll kind of relearn and retrain. And it takes a while, and you're probably going to have some blunders, but just you got to keep pushing through that, and then it'll kind of start to understand who you are and start serving your stuff up to other people as well.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'm curious. Did you have a yearly theme for 2024?
I did not. I
Okay,
do have one for
interesting.
2025, but I did not for this year.
Okay.
Um, I don't know like thinking back on the year, like what would the theme have been? Like what did I actually do? Um, I honestly don't even know. I think maybe part of it was this isn't a good, catchy theme, but taking my side projects more seriously might be the
Ooh.
theme. Um, like over the course of the year, I um, put more work into YouTube. I think I did some good YouTube videos this year. 2 years ago, I adopted a seasons thing where I just like take the summer off and then I do like a old school TV season through the like school year basically. Um, and that's worked really well for me, like not getting burned out on like running out of ideas on what to make. So trying to do that and trying to be more mindful of what sorts of videos I make. Like you said, there's certain things that work for your channel, for your audience. Um, I should really just make things videos and web browser videos, and that would be perfect, but like, that'd get boring as well. So,
Yeah.
but anyway, worked on that, trying to make that like a more serious thing. Actually, by the time this episode goes out, I might have my LLC opened, so that'll be a big one for me.
Ooh.
I know.
Nice.
So we'll see if First Tree
Nice.
Productions is allowed to exist in the state of Illinois. We'll find out.
Ooh.
But I know. So, but in addition to that, my blog, I introduced a membership for that, which has been more successful than I expected it to be. Made it easily the most profitable that project has ever been in the 15 years I've been doing it. So that was good. And then starting this podcast, I was doing freelance writing, and I kind of stopped doing that so that I could do this podcast. And while this isn't really a business yet, we've had a couple sponsors, but like it's not a big money maker by any means at the moment. I do think it's a good project, and I think long term is going to be really good for hopefully all of us. But yeah, I think that's probably my theme is getting a little more serious about these side projects.
Yeah, I forgot to mention this podcast of the year growth. We started this, and just like you said, it's not a big money maker. In fact, I'm pretty sure I lose money because I pay for Riverside. So I
Oh
think
yeah.
I might be in the hole here for that. But I think long term, this is something that could be something quite big. So that it's not something I'm too worried about right now. I guess actually, if you factor in our time, we're definitely probably losing money because we've only had a handful of sponsorships, and it hasn't been enough to cover the hours a week that we put into,
Yes.
making, producing, prepping, and all that stuff. So, but overall, I wouldn't call my last year a failure. I wouldn't call it a rousing success, but this year I focused on a theme that wasn't so much a general like, okay, we want to grow everything. It's more of a sub theme of the year of growth, and I'll explain. Basically, this is going to help. Like, if I do this, it's going to help grow everything else in the future. So, my yearly theme this year is the year of consistency because this last year, like I said, I moved. Had some family stuff happen, had some personal stuff happen that just took a lot of time away from work. And I've basically most of the year, I was like a month behind on everything. Like I was absolutely a month behind. I was going to take a couple of weeks off between like Christmas and New Year's and now and stuff like that. But instead, I'm using this time to get completely caught up with all my work. And, basically, I just want to be consistent this year. So what that means is I want to be consistently uploading. Like if you've noticed, if you look at like my release schedules for videos and stuff this year, or in 2024, you will notice that there will be like a week where I release like 2 or 3 videos and then like 2 or 3 weeks where I don't do anything because I was trying to like batch make videos and stuff like that. And it was dumb. It was stupid. I never should have done that. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. I don't know why it took that long for me to realize it was a bad idea. That's kind of sad. But I'm much more focused this year on, okay, each week I want to have out one long form video and one short form video. And the idea is the long form videos can be my typical, like, here's a bunch of apps that I like, or here's how I'm using Obsidian or a task manager, or hey, here's some shortcuts I built, the typical long form videos I've made for years now. But the short form videos are meant to be something fun, like, hey, here's this mechanical keyboard I've been testing or that I just built, or here's a kind of a short 1 to 2 minute, because YouTube Shorts now can go up to 3 minutes, but don't make them 3 minutes, 2 minutes max. Like, here's like a short little walkthrough of this app that's like, it's not like a complex task manager or something like that. Maybe it just has like 1 or 2 functions or something like that. So I'm much more focused on like just being consistently uploading. And I also want to cover, and I don't know how this works into consistency, but it's just kind of part of the whole growth thing. I want to cover more than just the iPad. Yes, the iPad is my main thing. It's the core of my channel. I'm going to keep covering it. Nobody freak out. I promise that's not going anywhere. But the problem is when you have years like this last year, or especially 2023, when there is literally no iPad hardware except the USB-C Apple Pencil in 2023, there was no new iPads that year. And iPad OS wasn't that exciting. You kind of get stuck, and it's just like, well, what do I do now? So I have that M4 Pro Mac Mini that I talked about. I want to start covering some more Mac apps again. I did that on the channel for a while. There's some really cool things you can do with Mac apps just because of the Mac ecosystem. Do more stuff with the iPhone, maybe even the Apple Watch. I don't know. I've been using it a lot more lately.
It's really hard to make videos about the Apple Watch, I find. Like, because it's so hard. You can't screen record on it. It's hard to film. Like it's a lot of like talking head stuff. So yeah,
It's ridiculously hard to film. It's the hardest device I've ever filmed. And I told the Apple Watch PR people that, because they asked me about like, this was a few years ago. They were talking to me about the Apple Watch, and I'm like, I love the product. I'd love to talk more about it. It is the hardest product in my life. It is the hardest product I've ever had to film, because you have to keep it. You either have to keep it on your wrist, or you're constantly unlocking it, and like it's a whole thing. But yeah, so I want to do more of that. I want to focus being better on time for sponsorships and uploads and stuff like that. Like I said, I've kind of been all over the place lately. And then I want to post other places, not just YouTube. And I'm not entirely sure what that looks like right now, because Instagram is kind of really annoying me lately, like especially Meta, like with some of their policies.
are you gonna do TikTok dances?
Well, see, that's the other thing is, as of right now,
True.
January 6th, TikTok is still on the ban train. Like, I think they have like 10 days or something like
13
that.
days
13
from now,
days.
I think app stores need to stop serving it, and we will see.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'm not going to invest in TikTok if they only have 13 days left. Meta did that whole thing a couple days ago where they put out AI profiles on Instagram, and it's so unbelievably bad, like so unbelievable. So I don't know where else I want to post, but I know I don't want my sole focus to be YouTube. I mean, that was a big reason why I wanted to start this show, was because I didn't want all my eggs in the YouTube basket. Maybe this means I start a newsletter. Maybe this means I do some other form of, I'm not entirely sure, but I just know I want to expand even more this year. Last year, like we've talked about, added the podcast, but I want to expand more. I don't want to be reliant heavily on YouTube and video sponsors and stuff like that, because this last year, I'm telling you, like, I mentioned that one that the middleman company went kaplunk before they even paid me, which was one of the highest paying sponsors.
Of course.
Or was supposed to be one of the highest paying sponsorships I've ever had. It was the one I put months and months of work into this sponsorship. Normally I don't do that. Normally it's like a couple of days of work. This was months of work. I've had some others that have just like completely ignored contracts and like invoice due dates and stuff like that. So the sponsorship ad realm, like I could kind of feel it crumbling, and just like the floor's about ready to go out from underneath it. So I don't want all my eggs in that basket. I want to kind of figure out something else, figure out kind of how to keep this going, because at the end of the day, I love what I do. I love that I get to talk about computers and nerd out with people and help people with productivity stuff and, ADHD stuff and all that kinds of different things that I cover. I love that I get to talk to people about this stuff, but the business side of it is what has me worried right now.
Hmm. Okay. So consistency and kind of branching out. I think that makes sense. I mean, and I think it helps you control a little bit more of your own destiny, right? Like
Hmm.
one thing I always hear, the advice I got early on was like when you're setting like goals for YouTube specifically, um, don't set your goals necessarily on how many subscribers you get or how many views you
Yeah.
get. Like you want those to go up, but like at the end of the day, you can't really control that. Like you can make the best thing you can, and you can like try to tweak that a little bit, but like if people don't watch the video, they don't watch the video, and you can't force them to. So I do like the idea of yeah, just being consistent, branching out a little bit, and then yeah, diversifying is always good in business, right? You don't. Apple makes all their money from iPhones. They want to diversify, so you can get into services maybe.
Yep. Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I'm gonna be launching Lolly Plus. It's my new media streaming service.
mhm.
We're gonna have all sorts of original content, and yeah,
Oh, that's
it's gonna be
perfect.
great. Yeah, yeah.
That's
Lolly
great.
Plus. Look forward to wherever you get your streaming services. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of mine. Year of consistency. I'm hoping this kind of guiding star, and so far, we're only on the second week of the year, but I feel like I've been really good. I didn't put out anything last week, so I'm not starting the put something out every week, but I got a bunch of stuff caught up. I got some stuff submitted for ad approvals and all that stuff, but of course everyone's on vacation, so nobody's in the office or anything to look at the sponsorship reads and stuff
Yeah.
like that. That is the one really annoying thing about YouTube ads, is that like everyone wants to see the video before it can go live. Now, before anyone freaks out, sponsors do not get any sort of control or say so. They don't get any editorial rights over the main part of the video. What they want is they want to see the sponsorship read part, because they want to make sure like you're being consistent, you're not saying that's something that's not factually accurate, or like if the promo code is correct or something like that. Like that's the
Mhm.
kind of stuff that they want to check for, which makes sense. Like I totally
Makes
get
total
that, but
sense. Yeah.
it just adds extra days into the whole process, because you're waiting for somebody to watch the video and be like, oh, yep, looks good. Okay, cool. But Matt, I am curious, what is your yearly theme?
My yearly theme is the year of fitness, which is as
Ooh.
cliche as it can be,
And
but
it's funny because I use that as the
I know,
example, and
I
I
know. I
did
was like,
not know this. I
ooh, foreshadowing.
I purposefully did not ask Matt what this was before we recorded, because I wanted to be surprised. So that
Mhm.
that is actually really interesting. So tell me about your year of fitness.
Yeah, so it's mostly around something. There's a few different aspects to it, but basically, it's just a thing that over the last like few months I've noticed, and it really came to a head recently. I updated my life insurance policy, and that came with a in-home like inspection to make sure I'm well. And
Really?
that yes,
Wow.
um, and I am. However, one part of it had you step on a scale, and I looked down, and for the last like 10 years of my life, I've seen a number between like a 5 pound range, basically, and it was like 10 pounds above it, and I was like, oh no, that's not a number I'm used to seeing. And I'm not like super conscious about my weight or anything, but it was a change, and it was enough of a change that I was like, "Oh, interesting. I'm trending this direction." And there were a few other kind of things related to fitness that I felt weren't at a place that they were a couple years ago. Part of that is just getting older. I'll turn 40 this year, which is a big number and something to process. But so far, I'm doing okay. I definitely won't have a midlife crisis at any point during this podcast. I promise.
That's okay. I had my midlife crisis early and bought a sports car, so
Okay,
it,
very good.
it's it's fine.
But yeah, so I was just like, and it was also the holiday season, so I was like, eating more sweets and stuff, and I was taking 2 weeks off work and was just like getting lunch eating out every day. So anyway, a lot of things can conflated into just me feeling like, oh, I could make some changes and move the needle. So um, the things I wanted to this is related to this year are cardio health, uh, weight, and strength and muscle mass. So these are all things I can easily move the needle on. I don't need to make radical changes to my life. And yeah, so basically, I like to run. It's my favorite way to work out. I like to run outside. I don't like treadmills. I don't like going to the gym. I just like running around my neighborhood. It's so low effort. It is, well, it's high effort, but it is easy to do. It's completely free. I refuse to pay to run. I just will not do it. The whole outdoors is right there. Just do it. As I say that as it's like 10 degrees outside today and absolutely freezing. But
Yeah, I mean, I think
yeah,
it's 41 degrees here, so I totally understand.
yeah. But like I want to do better. So according to my workout tracker, I ran 60 times in 2024, which is good. Like that's more than one a week. But the year before that, I did 112 runs. So I went down by almost half. I can increase that number. I don't have a specific number in mind, but just being more consistent, doing it more often. I did find a really cool app for tracking this. Actually, I should call out. It's called Habit Kit, and basically it's an iPhone only app, which is frustrating. But basically you set things you want to do on a regular basis and then you just mark them off. And the cool thing and the thing that got me to check it out is it displays the data like a GitHub commit history. So like those like charts people like developers will post with like, here's how many times I coded over the last year. It gives you
Oh,
basically a chart like that, which I find very satisfying to fill out. So it's super simple. I think it's a subscription, so I'm paying more than I necessarily need to do this. But yeah, I'm tracking my runs with the workout app, but I'm also using that app. And yeah, so like cardio, I'm just trying to run more, and my kind of goal is to get closer to a 30-minute 5K, which I was able to do in my late 20s, and I would like to be able to do again. We'll see how close I can get to it, but yeah, I just think consistency is king here today. So, yeah, just want to run more and get my cardio health better because I used to be able to run quite a long ways without having to take a break, and now I can like sometimes still see my house, and I'm like, oh boy, it's really hitting me. So,
yeah. One thing I didn't mention as part of my year of consistency, but I'll throw it in here since you brought it up, is to be more consistent with working out. Like I've talked about on this show, we
mhm.
have my girlfriend is a part of the Peloton cult, so I inherited some Peloton equipment and the rowing machine. I hate running, absolutely hate running. You'll never see me running, but I love the rowing machine. I could spend 20, 30 minutes on it a day, no problem. Love it. So that's something I want to be more consistent about too. So I can see how our themes kind of like
They do.
intertwine. So yeah, but that's good. I like it. I like the habit tracker app too. I there's something about checking off a box saying I did this thing that is
Mhm.
very satisfying. And I don't know about you, but it just hits that part of my brain where it's like, okay, yeah, okay, now did it, okay, ready to do it again
Mhm.
tomorrow. Do it, and then like you just keep going, and it's just checking that box off is satisfying.
Yeah. And the visualization, the momentum that you can kind of see as you fill things out. I've done this on paper for other things before. But yeah, it is just very satisfying to just see that like block of look at all this time I did this thing.
Nice.
Also on that front, because working out won't really change your weight if you don't change your diet. I'm trying to do some food tracking. I don't food track all the time. I don't think it's useful for me personally to do it all the time. Typically, I like to do it for like a month or two to get a baseline to like understand like how much I'm taking in. And so for that, I'm using Food Noms, which is so good. I haven't used it in a couple years, but they've really improved that app to the point where it's really, really excellent. Like their food database is extensive. Um, their search is really good. It does a good job of like when you search for something, it separates out the things you've previously logged, which you are probably eating again, as well as new things. It separates out like generic listings with brand name ones. It's really good. If you use their barcode scanner, it pulls in most items. If it doesn't, it's like, oh hey, could you just like scan the nutrition label for us real quick? And like it pulls in all the health data and it adds it to the library that everybody can use. If you want, you can opt out of that if you want. It has they have a new AI tool. Of course they do. But you can feed it. We like to find recipes online to make sometimes, and you can feed it a website that has a recipe on it, and it will read the article, find the ingredients, find the amounts, and make a pretty good estimate as to how the nutrition benefits of it. So really, really good food noms. I'm actually very, very impressed with it. But that's helping me kind of figure out how much am I eating? Is it more or less than I probably should? And then once I have a baseline about like how much everything is, I'll probably stop doing it in like February or something. But right now, it is good to kind of reset that kind of baseline and kind of understand because when I started tracking around Christmas. And ooh, buddy, those numbers were high. So
Yeah.
everything immediately came into focus. I was like, oh yeah, that's too much. First breakfast, second breakfast, nearly daily second breakfast. Don't do that. You just set up to lose at that point.
Yeah, yeah. My family is so both Danielle and my dad are big bakers. Like they love baking. So around Christmas time, it's just there's cookies everywhere. There is. Have you ever heard of Christmas crack?
No.
So it's Chex Mix with a crap ton of butter, brown sugar, and caramel, and it is the most
Oh my
amazing
God.
thing ever. I love it. It's terrible for me. It's amazing. So like we just have that stuff laying around. So I
Hmm.
totally understand. Just that time of year, it's full of goodies. So I think those are some solid yearly themes there. I really like yours. I'm kind of I think we should check in at the end of the year. We should make a note or something
Mm,
and maybe make this a yearly thing that we just rip off Cortex and just check in with each other kind of thing.
absolutely. Steal from a good podcast.
Yeah.
Steal from a great podcast.
We're just borrowing. We'll return it, I promise.
We're stealing like great artists steal, of course.
Yeah. We're stealing like how AI steals. Moving
Oh
on.
no. Way
Matt,
worse.
you have something in the document that I'm very excited to talk with you
Oh,
about
I
because
thought you
I
would
have
be.
been doing some research. Tell me what you got.
Okay, so I am looking at what I'm talking about right now. And that is a new computer monitor. My first computer
Ooh.
monitor I bought in a number of years. This is, give me a second to get it all out. This is the LG 32-inch Ultra Gear 4K OLED monitor, and it is fantastic. I love this monitor.
Hmm.
This is the monitor I've been looking for for a year. Maybe I've been looking for a new monitor. I haven't been super happy with what I had, and there were a few features I was hoping to get, and this one finally checked all the boxes at a relatively reasonable price, which was great. So I was thinking I could go over some of the core specs of the monitor to give you an idea for what we're
Yeah.
getting with it, and then why I chose this over the studio display, which is, I feel like in our circles, the default display for a lot of people. I know you have a
I,
studio display, don't you?
I do have a studio display. I love my studio display. There are some issues with it that I think you're going to probably address with this monitor, but there's some stuff about it that I absolutely love, and no
Yeah.
other monitor has been able to give me that.
Nice. Yeah. So I think the thing that's important here is that different people have different needs, and
Mm-hmm.
so
Oh, completely.
while those things are awesome, my needs had different things. So anyway, so the first thing, the elephant in the room that is gonna send a lot of people away is it's a 4K 32-inch screen.
I see what you've written in the document.
Yes.
Just
So
just go ahead, and I because I'm curious how you justify it.
sure. So um, th- with where I sit in my desk at my desk, which is about 28 inches from the screen, it's a little over 2 feet. That is Retina by the definition that Steve Jobs used when introducing Retina screens in the iPhone 4. You can bring it up with Steve Jobs if you think he's wrong, but it is just barely over that, so it's pretty close. If I was like 18 inches away, it would not technically be Retina, but Retina is just kind of an arbitrary line in the sand. The gist for me is that it looks great. It looks less crisp than my 27-inch 4K screen I was coming from, obviously. But like only if I really look at it. Like moment to moment, it's totally fine for me. I suspect this would be harder for people who have gotten used to a 5K monitor and don't want to go back. I totally get that, but I've never had a 5K monitor and don't want to get one in the near future. So, yeah. Um,
So retina, always thought retina was defined by like pixels per inch of or it's the resolution of the screen size in pixels per inch. So like by like Apple's definition, a 4K monitor can't be bigger than 24 inches. And if you do a 27-inch monitor, it has to be 5K. But and
so
like I think
So the Vision Pro actually is a very good thing that introduced a lot of people to the idea of pixels per degree. And pixels per degree is the thing with Retina. Your
okay.
television is Super Retina. Your television, like pixels per degree of your vision, is likely the highest resolution screen in your life. Like it's 4K, it's enormous. But if you're sitting on the couch 10 feet away, you have absolutely no way to see those pixels. You could probably not even see the
Yeah.
pixels at 1080p, right? Like, so if you are holding a phone, which is the thing that's closest to your eyes, that needs the highest resolution screen to be Retina because it's super close to you. But if you're further away, then the pixels can be larger. Um,
Okay, and that makes sense because there are plenty of games that I'll play on like my Xbox in performance mode, which
mhm.
drop to like 1080p or 1440, and then that way I can get 60 frames per second. And where I sit relative from my TV on the couch, I don't really notice
It
much of
looks
a
great,
resolution
right?
drop
Yeah.
between like I can switch between performance and resolution mode in a lot of games, and I can't see the resolution difference. The thing I can see is frame rate.
Yes,
That's the big difference.
absolutely. So I will fully admit it is much less crisp than a 5K monitor would be, especially
Mm.
the studio display, which is 27 inches and 4K, so more pixels and less screen, tinier pixels. I will concede the point.
Studio
But
displays 5K.
yeah, 5K 27.
Which
And
so is the tech. So I think for me, like, because I've used
ooh,
non-retina monitors with my
mhm,
iPads and Macs and stuff in the past, and the thing that always killed me wasn't
yeah,
necessarily like photo or video watching or editing or anything like that. It was the sharpness of text in a text editor like
mhm,
Obsidian.
yeah.
How's that?
So again, it's gonna be less crisp, but I do integer scaling of everything, right? So it's
Ah,
instead of me doing so, I think what a lot of people get hung up on is they want the UI to be a certain size, and so they're going to upscale a 1440p image to 4K, which is not a one to one. You can't do like 4 pixels equals one logical pixel or whatever the perfect pixel double that we all like to have.
yeah.
It doesn't do that, so so everything does look grainy. Um, or not grainy, just like less crisp. But for years, I have outputted my Mac at 1080p up to 4K, which does give you the perfect pixel doubling. So while it is not as crisp as a 1440p upscaled to 5K, perfectly doubled, it is still very good, in my opinion. Um, it does mean my UI is larger than yours is on the screen, and that's
Okay.
probably another thing that's going to be weird if you try to use my computer. But I actually like this because I do a lot of design work, and a lot of the products I work on are used on people on laptops, not desktops, and so it gives me a better sense of like how much will fit on screen by having my UI a little larger. Um, but yeah, it I think it's great, but not quite 5K
Okay.
quality.
Okay. No, I totally get that. Okay. What else does this monitor do for you?
Okay, now here's the big two. Next one is refresh rate. It's a 240 hertz display,
Ooh.
variable refresh. So just like ProMotion goes from 120 and can scale down as needed. This is 240 hertz and can scale down as well. Does not work well on Mac OS for whatever reason. Whenever I choose the variable refresh rate mode in like the display settings, I get like corruption in the image. I think whenever it tries
Hmm.
to change the refresh rate, like I don't know if it's my cables or whatever, but like it doesn't behave that nicely. So I just have it set at 240 hertz all the time. Maybe wasteful, but on Windows works amazingly, especially in games, to get even frame pacing no matter what my frame rate is. And there's a special button on the bottom of this monitor. So right below the chin, you can just kind of like tap this little button and it does something crazy that I haven't seen in a monitor before. I actually personally will never use myself, but is there, so I may as well mention it. You are using your computer. Everything's great, looking swell. You tap this button on the bottom of the screen, and the screen goes black for a moment. And when it comes back, it's very blurry, but it's refreshing at 480 hertz.
What? That's insane.
So it'll output video at 1080p. And if you thought 4K at 32 inches was blurry, 1080p at 32 inches is insane. You would never use your computer like this. However, the intended use case is for people who play games,
Yeah.
competitive shooters, especially where twitch reflexes are ideal. There's people out there who are adamant that our displays won't be they won't have enough refresh rate until we're at like 1,000 hertz, because it's
That's wild.
I know it is wild, but like fast motion still blurs on like these high refresh rate screens we have today. Like the Apple Pencil update to like 240 hertz anyway. But I use it 240 hertz on my Mac, and it's lovely. Most things that's unnecessary, like it doesn't really matter, but animations are very smooth, and I notice it most with the mouse. The mouse, just moving it around is like super, super smooth and is very satisfying. I also notice it when typing, like it's not a thing you might think about, but like just like the delay from me hitting a button on my keyboard and seeing the thing on screen is just quicker and just feels sharper, which is cool. But maybe the more impressive thing or the more exciting thing is it's an OLED screen. And oh, buddy, it is so nice.
That would be so nice. Oh, see, that's the thing that kills me about the studio displays. It's still an regular LCD display.
It's an
LED
LCD,
display.
IPS, whatever.
IPS,
something,
yeah. And it's 60 hertz.
Mm-hmm.
Which the bigger I have this theory, the bigger the screen, the more the bigger the screen, the more noticeable it is to me. Sorry, I
agree.
got confused.
Yes.
The iPhone, not very interesting story. I'm using the 16 Plus right now, so I don't have a 120 hertz display. Can't really tell the difference. I can kind of notice it when I scroll fast, but can't really see the difference. My iPad Pro absolutely can see the difference between a ProMotion and non-ProMotion.
Absolutely.
Studio display can absolutely notice that it's 60 hertz. So yeah, I'm kind of, and then the fact that it's an IPS LCD display and not even mini LED or OLED. So I'm a little jealous over here about the OLED thing.
Yeah, so perfect blacks, of course, incredible response time, so there's really no ghosting or anything when things are moving quickly. It just looks fantastic. It supports HDR and like actual HDR. It gets over 1,000 nits when watching HDR content, and it really hits home when you watch like something in HDR on a screen this big. It looks so good. I don't know how else to describe it, but just like it's fantastic. And this was the big thing for me. I had an IPS LCD display myself before, and I really felt like to get an upgrade, OLED had to be part of the equation. And so this was the right price and the right monitor and the right size with the right aesthetic. It has a matte finish. I know some people like glossy for OLED. I probably prefer it as well, but a matte finish has no reflections or anything, so that's nice. And then the last thing about this that I like are the aesthetics. For a PC monitor or for a PC style monitor or for a monitor not made by Apple. So 99.9% of the monitors, I think it looks really good. I'm actually using it on its built-in stand, partially because my Amazon Basics arm was not going to be able to hold a monitor this large. But it's pretty darn thin. It's all white. I got the white model, and it looks good. The stand is very, very minimal. It's very, very flat. So like it's not, even though it's taking up desk space, it doesn't feel like it. I can just put things on top of it, which I do more often than I'd like, because I have a messy desk. And can rotate tilt it, you can go full 90 degrees, and you don't even have to pay an extra $600 for a stand that does that, which is lovely. You can just include that in the normal price.
Yep, I definitely paid the extra money, and I don't remember how much it is, but I know it was a significant chunk for the tilt and height adjustable studio display, because the regular studio display that's just tilt adjustable is too low for me. I'm 6'2". I'm a little tall. So I knew I needed the tilt and height adjustable one, and if I didn't get it, I was going to be annoyed. So I definitely got that. But hey, it's not the $1,000 for just the studio display stand, or not studio Pro Display XDR stand. That is ridiculous. That is
that's crazy.
Still for sale at that price.
Yeah. Okay, so to close out this section, there's a couple of reasons why I went with this over the studio display, and I think you would still prefer the studio display over this monitor. So I'm curious what you
I would
like about it.
agree with an asterisk,
Okay.
a future asterisk.
Okay. So for me, it was the cost. The studio display with the adjustable monitor and the nano texture matte finish would have been like $2,200 or $2,300.
Do you have a window behind you that you would need the nano texture?
I don't. Maybe I wouldn't need it, so maybe I could save like $300 then. But it would be
unless you have nano texture. I'm a firm believer in this. If you don't have a window behind you, or in like our case where I have big filming lights. So the nano texture display on the iPad absolutely makes sense for me because I'm filming my iPad. If I wasn't doing that, it wouldn't make sense for me. Unless you're working outside, have a window next to you, or have big lights that add glare, you don't need the nano texture.
Okay. So if I don't do nano texture, I just priced it out. It's a $2,000 monitor.
Oh God,
which is a lot.
That much money on that.
This one is normal cost is $1,400, but I got it on sale for $1,000. So half the price of the studio display. And CES is going on as we record this, so there's probably going to be a new generation of monitors from LG and everybody. So presumably this will be around that $1,000 mark for a while, which is a ton to spend, but is half of the studio display I would have got. So that was a big factor.
I'll put on a good monitor, and keep in mind, obviously you know this, but audience, Matt is a designer. He does graphic design work. He can't just have like the off-the-shelf 24-inch 1080p monitor. You need to have something that's decent to show your work on.
And I play games. Is it more for the games or more for the design? Who can say? Let's say
tax season's up. You say it's for your work, Matt.
There you go.
It's for your work. It's tax season.
Right. Mostly the work.
Yes.
The other things very quickly. OLED, we already talked about that. Refresh rate, we already talked about that. Those are clear benefits to the studio display, to the LG display. And the last one I didn't even mention yet, but I/O. The studio display just has one Thunderbolt input, which is great if you're all in on Apple devices. But I'm not. I have a Windows PC, and it just does not work well with studio displays. The Thunderbolt output it would not work well for my setup. And this has a display port and 2 HDMIs.
And I don't even know if the studio display works well if you're all in on the Apple ecosystem. So my problem right now is I have that Mac Mini. I also have my iPad. I'm working from both. I'm doing things from both of them. I'm constantly having to unplug from the back of the Mac Mini and plug into the iPad. And dear listener, I've looked for Thunderbolt KVM switches. They technically exist. It is a flip of a coin, and I've read all the reviews, I've watched videos, they don't work consistently, and they are very, very expensive. We're talking multiple hundreds of dollars, and I'm not going to spend that kind of money on something that's not going to work consistent. If it was a $20 or $50 or even just $100 thing, I would roll the dice on it. But we're talking $200, $300, $400. I'm not going to roll the dice. So
that's a risk.
Because I know you're a big PC gamer boy, you're a real gamer. Does this have a built-in KVM switch so that you can jump between your Mac and your gaming PC?
So I don't fully understand what a KVM switch is, but I do not believe so. The closest this has is it will detect which input is currently getting a video signal and automatically switch to it. So when I'm done working for the day, I just lock my Mac, the screen goes off, and then I hit the power button on my PC, and it just switches to that input.
So that's essentially KVM. You can have multiple devices plugged into the one monitor and it switches between them. I'm
Okay.
sure if you go into the menu of the monitor, you can pick the input as well, which is
Hmm.
a built-in KVM.
Sure.
So
Okay.
for those that don't know what a KVM is, you mostly find these in like server rooms and stuff with like a crappy 13-inch 4x3 monitor sitting on like a makeshift stand with a crappy leftover computer or PC keyboard and mouse, and the keyboard's probably missing a key. This is probably hitting home for a few people.
Yes.
Typically, what you would do is you would take all your physical servers and you would plug it into the KVM switch, and there'd be a physical button that you can jump between them, and the input for the monitor, mouse, and keyboard would all change to that physical machine. So that's basically what you have is a KVM switch built into the monitor. I had the really fancy BenQ 32-inch 4K, like their fancy display monitor. They sent me that years and years ago. In fact, I don't even know where it's at. My brother probably has it. They had like this little hockey puck thing that would sit in it, and you could jump between your inputs. And if you plugged your keyboard into the back of it, and if you had a wired mouse, you could plug it in the back of the monitor, and it would switch the monitor input, the keyboard input, and the mouse input to whichever machine you wanted. So,
Hmm.
a
Okay.
lot of monitors like that have a built-in KVM switch.
Gotcha. So yeah, it does automatically switch, and it switches quick. One of the things I didn't like on my old monitor is it took a while to like turn on. So like I
Mm.
like hit the spacebar on my like keyboard, my Mac would wake up and it would show the login screen, but it would take so long for the monitor to wake up and like light up that like this Mac would turn off again before that would happen. So whenever I like went to my desk, I had to just like jam on the spacebar key until the monitor turned on like 10 seconds later. This one turns on in like 2 seconds, which is great.
Nice. I like this. So I'm looking for a small monitor for my studio in here when we have people in the house and I can't work at my desk. I want to be able to work in here. I'd like to have an external monitor for that to plug my iPad into. I think 32 inches is a bit big
Yes.
because I would have to store it. I think the maximum I want is like 24-inch, but I'm not going to buy another studio display. What I would love is to find like a 24-inch OLED display, but I don't know if they make those or not. I'll have to do some searching.
I don't know about 24. I know 27-inch OLEDs are starting to
Yeah, it's
hit
just
the
a
market.
little too big. So like, because what I'm
Okay.
gonna have to do is I'm gonna have to take that monitor and put it in the closet when I'm not using it, and I think 27 might be a bit too big. I don't know. I might take advantage of a Best Buy return policy or an Amazon return policy or something and just try it out. But yeah, I want another monitor for in here, but right now, I'm just because right now when we have people over, like if it's my mother-in-law or my girlfriend's not working that day, and I'm working, my ADHD kicks in if I'm sitting at my desk. People in the house, I want to distract myself. I need to be able to come in here and close the door and just focus on my work. So right now, I'm just working straight off the iPad and the 13-inch display with the Magic Keyboard, and it's fine for the most part, but it does get a little cramped.
Gotcha. Nice. So the studio display, I think, still wins. It has a built-in webcam. The LG does not.
Oh,
Um,
it's not a very good webcam.
yeah, it is there though, so it is at
Yeah.
least built in, which is nice. Part of the all-in-one. What's the difference? There are speakers on this that are terrible. Um,
That's like a given for any PC
I
monitor.
know. I'm trying to think. What else is there? Anything else special with the studio display
The
that?
studio display speakers are pretty good. It also has USB-C ports, 3 extra
Oh, that's
USB-C
right.
ports on the back, and they
Hmm.
are I think they are I want to say they're the 10 gigabit per second USB-C ports, but they might be
Okay.
the 5 gigabit per second USB-C ports, which is better than the Pro Display XDR because yes, it does have USB-C ports on the back, but they are USB 2.0.
Ooh. Oh.
Yes. Yeah.
2.0?
2.0. They USB 2.0 speeds because because of the fact that the Pro Display XDR is 6K, it maxes out the bandwidth for
Oh,
Thunderbolt, so they
yeah.
have no extra bandwidth left over to do any sort of high data transfer.
Hmm. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah, yeah. So I still think like if you're gonna buy an Apple monitor, well, the mini LED of the Pro Display XDR would be nice. Unless you really, really need that, I would just go Studio Display. I think it's because the Pro Display XDR doesn't have speakers and it doesn't have a webcam either,
And it's six
and it's a
thousand
$1,000
dollars.
stand plus $1,000 stand.
Yeah. Oh,
That's so expensive.
it's so
And you know what?
expensive.
There was a time I almost bought one too.
Oh my
There
God.
was there was a time I almost bought because I was so sick of because I was like in the wilderness for a while using like different PC monitors. I used that BenQ 32-inch like super high end design one. I also bought that LG 5K 2K one, which was technically an ultra wide retina monitor. So it was technically a 5K monitor that ran at like 2.5K. So it was technically retina, but like everything was just massive on it because of that. I was in the wilderness for a good while, and then Apple released the Studio Display, and I couldn't order that thing fast enough.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Well, I think you have something related to monitors in our challenge.
Yes. So the challenge this week, or I guess technically this last 2 weeks, was mine, and it was to change something about your desk setup. And speaking of studio displays, I just took it off. I took the studio display off my desk. I had no monitor. You know what I had sitting on my desk? The M4 Pro Mac Mini, a keyboard, and trackpad because I used my Vision Pro as the
Ooh.
monitor. And it worked really well. So this is the virtual display pass through, and this was actually the first time I used it because since the Vision Pro was
Oh,
out, I didn't
really?
really have a Mac. I mean, I
Okay.
had the Mac that I used to record Comfort Zone here. That's underneath this desk. It's just the M2 Mac Mini, but it's the base M2 Mac Mini. It's 8 gigs of RAM. 256 gigs of storage. Like, it's not enough to use it for anything in my workflow. I never wanted to set it up with like Obsidian or my task manager either. Like I didn't want to deal with any of that stuff. So I never used it for that. So this was the first time I've used the virtual display option with Vision Pro. And I have to say, this thing is amazing. This is the killer feature of Vision Pro, which is kind of sad that it requires a whole separate computer.
Yeah.
With Vision OS 2.1 or 2.2, something like that,
One of those.
they
Yeah.
added they added the wide and ultra wide modes. So before it was just like a standard 16:9 screen, but now you can get a wide and an ultra wide view where it stretches the image out. I like the wide. The ultra wide was too wide. Have you
Agreed.
tried this, Matt?
I have. Yeah. Um,
I felt like I was turning my head a lot with the
it's
ultra
crazy.
wide. Yeah.
So yeah, I not a fan of that one, but I do think the wide is if you do feel cramped on the 16:9, if you're like a two monitor person,
Yeah.
then yeah, the wide I think is probably a good compromise.
Even if you're not a two monitor person, so what I did is I put it in the wide mode, opened up Obsidian, made Obsidian, the whole screen, and I had multiple documents. You know, like how in Obsidian you can add a document to the right of your screen. You can
Mhm.
basically do like a split view within Obsidian kind of thing.
Yeah.
I did that and like it was really comfortable to write in. The text was really nice and crisp. The one thing I did do is I changed the resolution from the default to 2520 by 1080 because it made everything a little bit bigger. The default resolution is a little too small for me. As somebody that I typically wear reading glasses and stuff when I sit at a computer. It was a little too small for me. The text was a little too small. I felt like it was a little hard to read. And a couple other things that I did, I'll talk about in a second. Like everything was a bit too small, but when I changed the resolution, it all just clicked for me right away.
Yeah. This is um just real quick on the resolution thing. So we're talking about pixels per degree, like 4K versus 5K screens in the physical world.
Uh huh.
Um, the studio display has about 112 pixels per degree. So keep that in mind. Your studio display is 112 in sharpness.
Okay.
My 32-inch garbage 4K monitor is about 73 pixels per degree. So
Okay.
less, but around 60 is kind of the cutoff where people generally consider it retina. The Vision Pro 34 pixels per degree.
Interesting, but
So
I have a feeling it's because it's doing the foveated rendering, right?
so that's before any foveated rendering. So that's the physical
Oh,
screen. It's 34 pixels per degree of vision at peak crispness. And if you're just curious what
interesting.
34 is in like physical world, that's a 27-inch 1080p monitor at about 2 feet from your face. So
Interesting.
this is why I think this is a very interesting thing, because I know a lot of people who love using their Macs in the Vision Pro, like they really enjoy that, and they're like, oh, it looks like so the screen image looks so good, and like it does look good, but it is interesting that like in the physical world we have very high demands, and in the headset, like a much lower resolution screen feels better for whatever reason. So yeah, just an interesting thing.
I wonder if it's because it is closer to your face, or
Well, because the physical pixels per degree are like 1,000 per inch on the Vision Pro,
yeah.
because they're so tiny and they're so high resolution, but like they're so close to your eye that like, yeah,
And on top of that, the Vision Pro is OLED, whereas the Studio display is the LCD IPS thing.
hmm
So
yeah,
I definitely noticed like, oh, all the blacks and the colors look a lot better on the Vision Pro as
mm,
opposed to what the
interesting,
Studio
yeah.
display would look like. Um, but I did have a couple of issues. I think the big thing that I had was an issue with the keyboard and trackpad pass through. So what's
Mm,
supposed to happen is the keyboard and trackpad you have paired with your Vision Pro, the Magic Keyboard and Magic Trackpad, is supposed to pass through and let you control the Mac. And this would work like half the time. Sometimes it just wouldn't pass through for whatever reason. So, what I eventually did is I just gave up using that, and I would use the keyboard that was plugged into the Mac Mini
mhm.
and the trackpad that was paired, because I would use my mechanical keyboard. That was the other thing, is I wanted to use my mechanical keyboard. I would much prefer to use a mechanical keyboard, but for some reason, Vision OS does not support mechanical keyboards with the QuickType bar and the pass through and all that stuff. So I used the mechanical keyboard that was plugged in the Mac Mini and the Magic Trackpad that was paired to the Mac Mini, and that seemed to work a lot better. The issue is if you went 100% on with the virtual environments, like I typically like to do, because it blocks out distractions.
Sure.
There's no keyboard pass through, so you can't see what you're typing and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
what I would do is I would go to about 60%, so I could see like my keyboard, my trackpad, my Dr. Pepper. But if I would look to
The
see
big
where the
three.
monitor, yeah, exactly, the necessities. But if I would look if I was sitting at my desk and I would look and see where my monitor used to be or would normally be, that would just be the environment in the virtual display. And that seemed to work
Yeah.
really well as kind of like a compromise. It still blocked out, like if there was anyone else home, it still blocked them out walking past me or something like that. So I wasn't getting distracted. That worked okay for the most part. The one thing I did notice is when the keyboard and trackpad pass through did work. When that did work, the trackpad scrolling was really sluggish. Have you had that issue?
Um, I don't, not really sluggish. I have noticed a little bit of latency, um, from like when I type to when I see it on the screen, but like minimal, I would say. Not like enough to notice that it's not as good as just like looking at a normal screen, but like not bad, I wouldn't say.
See, for me, what and maybe it's the trackpad or something. Maybe I need to unpair. I don't know. But what I was doing is for the trackpad pass through. So the trackpad that was paired to the Vision Pro and it was passing through to the Mac, I would scroll aggressively and it would move very little. And I
Oh,
am somebody
interesting.
that I turn up trackpad scrolling sensitivity and pointer sensitivity. I turn that up because I think the natural or the default options in Mac OS are a little too slow for me. And it was just, so maybe it was just a bug on my end. I don't know. But
Hmm.
using the trackpad that was paired with the Mac Mini, that one worked fine. Apple, please, for the love of God, add the ability to support multiple devices for one Magic Trackpad. I currently have
Oh my God.
three. I have three Magic Trackpads sitting on my desk. One for my iPad, one for the Mac, one for the Vision Pro.
Yeah. Yep.
It's ridiculous.
I know people like to make a big deal of the charging situation on the Magic Mouse, which is stupid, but the biggest issue for me is not that, it's the multi-device usage. It literally
Yeah,
will not work with more
that
than one
is
device at once.
that is way more. And before anyone tells me, use the continuity iPad thing where you can move the mouse between the Mac and the iPad, that only works is if you have both the Mac and the iPad on and next to each
Yeah.
other. I don't always have that, so multi-device pairing would be really important.
Would be great.
But overall, like the performance, I was shocked how good the performance of the pass-through is, considering it's a Wi-Fi 5 chip in the Vision Pro. I was editing video in Final Cut Pro, and there was no latency at all. I was editing video, I was chopping it up. I edited, so I have coming out, I have an Apple Intelligence video, and I have a video, it's a sponsored video, but it's about a robot vacuum cleaner. I edited both of those using Vision Pro and this Mac Mini, and it worked fantastic. I could not believe how well this worked. This was the thing that made me give up the ultra wide, because it was way too much head turning. Because like there's things in Final Cut that are in the top left corner, and like your timeline's in the bottom right, and like it was a lot of head turning. So that is what made me go wide as far as the monitor view, but it was perfect for that. And like the thought I had about this too, about the Mac pass through, is the fact that there is not a lot of apps for Vision Pro right now. And in fact, there's a good chunk of Apple's apps that are still just the iPad versions, reminders. You would think they would have a dedicated reminders app by now for Vision Pro. It's just the iPad app right now running in compatibility mode. A lot of apps are still running in compatibility mode. And even more apps just aren't even there. Like there are a lot of apps that aren't even there. So this gives you the ability to use all the Mac apps on Vision Pro, which is kind of nice. But it leads me to my big thought. Why is there no iPad pass-through? Why? That's the thing. I would kill for that. Well, not really kill, but you know what I mean. I'm exaggerating. But I would love an iPad pass-through so that I could use my iPad, like even if I just had to use the Magic Keyboard like the Magic Keyboard for the iPad, even if I had to use that and that trackpad built into it, I would love that. Let me have my big iPad display. Let me have all my apps there.
And it's not like iPads don't support like external displays already. Like it doesn't even need to be just like a floating iPad. It could be, you could have the wide or normal wide and ultra wide screens.
Oh,
why not?
Yeah, absolutely. Just make it the external monitor. Absolutely make it the external monitor. Well, and the other thing that it supports is the Vision Pro is now an AirPlay receiver for all iOS and iPadOS devices, and I believe technically the Mac too. So you can AirPlay your iPad display to the Vision Pro, and you could sit there with your Magic Keyboard and trackpad and use it, but it lags. Like there's major latency. Like it was fine for writing some text, but like the minute I tried to do something in Final Cut or Photoshop or Lightroom, it fell apart. So like it seems like the pieces are there. Just put it in, Apple. Put it in. Give me a reason to use my Vision Pro more.
Vision OS 3, add it to the wish list.
So kind of like my summary of this is, works great with the Mac, love it. Probably not a great idea to invest $3,500 into a monitor for your Mac. But if you're like Matt and I, and you are a sucker and bought one right away, and it does give you
things to do.
I thought that was going to be the thing that I spent most of the year covering. Nope.
Zen.
But ultimately, I mean, it's cheaper than the Pro Display XDR, I guess.
There
but
you go.
That's
a way to look at it.
Yeah. I couldn't afford not to, Matt. You know, I had to do it.
The opportunity cost was way too high. You had to go in.
Yeah, but ultimately, I would say just get a studio display. It's cool. It's nice. You can have this wide monitor, but I will. I mean, I'm gonna put as soon as we're done recording, I'm putting the studio display back on my desk and stuff like that. Mostly because I use it with my iPad. But yeah, I like this. I think it's a great feature. Between this and the Personas, I think those are the two killer things of Vision Pro. The issue is Personas require you to know other people that have a Vision Pro, which I would not say is very likely for most people. And on top of that, and then for the Mac Virtual Display, it requires you to have an M Series Mac, which is also an expensive purchase. So there's not really a dedicated standalone killer feature for Vision Pro right now, which was kind of my takeaway.
I think that is totally fair. I bet the Vision Pro didn't think it was going to get that feedback during a desk setup challenge.
Yeah. Yep. But I mean, it works out great. But it's just I mean, I wouldn't want to spend $3,500.
Yeah.
Just to use this with my Mac.
Yeah.
There's better solutions.
Well, and also like the headset messes up your hair. Do you want every time you use an external display to have your hair messed up and potentially red rings around your eyes? Yeah.
I still haven't updated my Persona to the new version because every time I do it, it messes up my hair and it makes me look funky. And I'm like, I just don't want to do this. And I need to because I had a call and it didn't work right because I hadn't put on the new one. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Same
but Matt,
situation here. But yeah.
Yeah. Matt, what do you have for us?
Well, mine was very simple. I recently got a new desk. And the new monitor, I guess. A big desk month for me. And we talked about this weeks ago, months ago maybe at this point, when I talked about my OWC Thunderbolt dock, which is the heart of my desk setup. Everything plugs into it, and the one Thunderbolt cable just goes into whatever computer I'm using at the moment. And I love, but that did mean that I have this Thunderbolt cable just winding its way across my desk, and I've had this for 5 years. This has been an issue. And so, real desks have wires. It's okay, but it is annoying that it's there. And I was like, okay, this is a great opportunity for me to find a way to move this Thunderbolt dock somewhere on my desk where I don't have this wire just constantly going across half of it. So I've done that very successfully. I forgot to put pictures in our show notes, but they will be in the show notes when you're listening. I have used command strips, and I have just slapped it to the side of the leg of the desk.
Nice.
And I've kind of run the cable with these cheap little clip things. I've run it up the side of it, and then the Thunderbolt cable is just kind of up at the front of the desk, right where it plugs into the laptop, and it's great. It's really nice. I also have a capture card that I use for recording this video that runs video from my camera into the computer. And that had a similar situation where it had a wire just kind of randomly strewn across the desk. And I did the exact same thing, slapped it right next to the Thunderbolt dock. And now that cable kind of goes up as well. That one's messier because it has to travel farther for the camera. But I finally have a relatively clean cable setup. It's still not, I'm looking at it right now. It's still not perfect, but it's certainly better than it was, and that pet peeve of mine is no longer an issue and will save me hundreds of dollars from wanting to buy a Thunderbolt dock that fixes that issue in the future,
which is what I did.
Yes.
I just sent you a link to something in our iMessage chat. This might help you even further. This is a shelf that mounts underneath your desk, and on the backside, it has a spot for cables to come out. So this is the desk I'm sitting at right here. I have one of those right underneath here with my audio interface. So basically, XLR cable and headphone cable go out the back and connect. And then over here, there's also on this left side, my left side, there is a shelf for the M2 Mac Mini as well. So I have a bunch of stuff mounted underneath this. And then on the back side of this desk, you can get cable trays. So all the cables come out from these two shelves, go to the cable trays and kind of get tied up there and then go to their destinations.
Nice. Yeah, this looks good. I want a wider version of this. My dream, because you'll be able to see in the picture, but like I have my work laptop from like my day job and my personal laptop, and they're just stacked on top of each other, and I plug
Mm,
into whichever one. I'd love to get those under my desk as well. So what I've been looking for is some sort of this under desk shelf, that's more of like a pocket, but that could fit the laptops. So
gotcha.
I wonder if this would.
That seems. Do you have to unplug? Are you unplugging a cable from one and plugging it into another?
Yep.
That might be annoying. I feel like you could get like a dual laptop stand. Like, do you use them in clamshell mode?
Yeah. Oh yeah, my screens are almost never open.
I feel like you should be able to get something that like slots them in, and then like you could just like unplug it and plug it in.
Yeah, you'll see in the photo. They're literally stacked, so the Thunderbolt cables are right next to each other. So I
Oh, okay,
unplug and
gotcha,
then plug in. It is the
gotcha.
smallest amount of effort,
Okay, gotcha,
of
gotcha,
physical
gotcha.
effort I can possibly have for it.
See, if Thunderbolt KVM switches were actually a thing and
Mm,
reliable, then you could just have a button on your desk you push and it would switch between the two. But
we don't live in that world.
no, we do not. I really want a Thunderbolt KVM switch. That would mean a lot. But no, it's good. I love a good cable management setup. I one of my first projects of this year, it wasn't really cable management, but it was organizing the tool chests that I have in my closet that are full of cables and gear and all that stuff. And it was nice to be able to do that. But I want to rip all the cables at this desk out because they are kind of messy right now, and tie them up a little bit
Yeah.
Nicer. Why
Niter.
did I say niter? Nicer. Niter. Anyways, all right. Well, that is our challenge. I think it was a solid one. We'll let Niléane decide who won. That one. She'll just pick her.
Yep, she somehow won. She's not here, but she somehow won. Anyway.
Niléane still somehow won. All right, Matt. What do you have for us? What's our challenge for the next week?
So our challenge is to just bring a movie that has tech you wish you could use in real life.
Ooh.
So
I wish you would have said movie or show, but okay.
Movie or show.
Oh,
Or
okay.
TV show.
I didn't mean to change a challenge, but
I mean, unless we're going to bring a TV show with tech you want to use in the future, we may as well do them both at the same time.
Yeah. No, okay. There's one that just straight up jumps to mind that I'm like,
Okay.
yes, I've wanted this for a very long time, but we'll save it for next week.
Okay. Yeah, I think it'll be fun. A little different.
Yeah, that is a little different. I like it. All right. Well, that just about does it for the show. But before we wrap up, I have an in-show question for you. And since it's just you, I figured I would ask something video editing related.
Yes.
Though I guess Niléane did mention she is getting into video editing, so I probably could have saved this for her. But it's the question I came up with, and I don't have time to come up with something new, so we'll use it. I want to know, what is your favorite video editing app that assists you in your work in video editing, but not Final Cut Pro or any other nonlinear editor?
Ooh. Oh, that's a good question.
I can go first if you'd like.
Yes, please.
So mine is Hush. Hush is an app that basically you drop your audio clips in, and it cleans up all the background noises. It EQs everything, and there's not a ton of sliders. A lot of these apps, like I know the big one for a lot of podcasters was what was that app? It was like stupid expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone used it to clean up their audio tracks. What was it called?
I forget what it was called. I know what you're talking about.
It was ridiculous. I tried using that once. There's so much happening. I've been in video editing. I've been editing video since I was 12. I had no idea what was happening in that app. There was so much. This one, there's literally a slider that you just select how aggressive you want it to be. I put it
Nice.
at about 80%. It cleans up all the background noise. Somebody was mowing their lawn while we were recording this. Hopefully, if you don't hear it, it's because of Hush. Because otherwise, like, I could absolutely see the levels going when I wasn't talking because somebody was mowing their lawn. I use Hush for not just my videos, but obviously this podcast as well. You probably would have noticed a difference. I think it was like somewhere in episode 10 to 12 or something like that. The audio quality just completely shifted of the podcast. It's because I started using Hush. It cleans up air conditioning noises, fan noises, background speaking. It does a great job. The first time I used this was for that Apple executive interview I did about SmartScript and Math Notes. We filmed that at an Apple office that was not set up to record audio. It was incredibly echoey. Used it, cut out all that echo, did a fantastic job. It's like $80 or something like that. It's a one-time purchase. Amazing purchase. Love it. It was fantastic. I would buy it again. If it was a subscription, I would subscribe. No problem. I use it for everything.
Okay. That's a good one. Mine is, I feel like a thing I talk about all the time. Mac Whisper. It's great.
I knew you were going to pick this one. I was hoping you would pick this one.
Mac Whisper is a tool that uses a bunch of different AI models to transcribe audio, video, whatever. It's really fantastic. It runs 100% locally on your device once you've downloaded the model. So works really great. If you have a fast computer, it'll go very fast. If you have a slow computer, it'll still work. It'll just take a little while longer. It is free to do kind of the basic models, but if you want the really high quality transcriptions, you have to pay for Mac Whisper Pro, which is a one-time €50 fee, it looks like. I'm on their website right now.
I think it's a subscription. I'm subscribed.
Oh, I'm not.
Oh, maybe you got in early or something. I think I'm on a subscription. Hang on. Let me double check. You talk about it. I'll double check, but I'm 90% sure I am.
But yeah, it's super valuable. So I use this for YouTube videos. I will, as soon as after I export a video, I feed it into Mac Whisper while I'm finishing up other things, and it spits out a high quality transcript for me that I upload to YouTube so that the video has better transcripts than YouTube's built-in ones. And I use it for this podcast. Every time we record a podcast, once Chris, you finish editing it, you send over the file to me, and I do all the audio stuff. And I will transcribe the whole podcast. And I have a custom GPT thing in ChatGPT that I feed the transcript into. And I have a few questions that it is supposed to help me with. So it helps me find all the products we talked about. It looks for any time we say that'll be in the show notes, and tells me that's when we said it and what the product is, which is very, very helpful because sometimes you forget. And it does a few other things, but just like it's very, very nice to have a transcript of video and audio stuff. And so, yeah, it's invaluable. It's part of all of my video productions at this point. And yeah, even though I speak about it all the time, it is the answer. So, yeah.
Yep. I'm using this for all of my videos now to do proper subtitles. I was asked for years to do proper subtitles and not just rely on YouTube's auto-generated subtitles, which are really, really bad.
Yeah.
And there have been services and stuff out for years, but they were not affordable because they were people manually going in and transcribing your videos, which takes a really long time. So that it was never something that was tenable. This to me is the best kind of use of AI, where it is assisting you in a task that I don't think I could sit down and type out the transcription for one of my 40-minute videos. I really don't think I could do that.
I wouldn't.
But this does all the time code and everything. You if you're a YouTube person, you just go to the subtitles, you click, in our case, English, you upload the files, you select with timing, add the SRT file, and boom, Bob's your uncle. It's just there. I am paying $25 a year as a yearly subscription. I'm wondering if there is a lifetime purchase that I missed. Normally I go for the lifetime purchases. But I have
the link.
Yeah, and I have, I signed up not too late last year, so I'll just switch to the lifetime purchase when this is about ready to go up. But for now, I'll keep it the way it is. But there's also a monthly for $9 and a weekly for $5. And this is one of those apps that I actually think a weekly option makes sense. That if you're just like, hey, I'm working on this one-off project and I need subtitles for it, $5 to get really good subtitles is not bad at all.
No. Nice.
Yeah, no, this is one of those things that you told me about this, and I've not looked back. I've done this for every single one of my videos. It works great. I I want to go back and do my back catalog of videos. That's just going to take some time to get all those files together and do that properly. But yeah, I absolutely love this app. Completely co-sign, agree with you on this one. And when I came up with this question, I was hoping you would say this one.
I'm glad to delight. Yeah, the one bummer about this is that it's Mac only. They had a beta for an iOS and iPadOS version of the app, and it just disappeared. I don't know what's going
Yeah.
on, which is a bummer.
I really hope that comes back because I'm having to, like, I'm editing all the videos on my iPad. I'm having to move the file over to a Mac, transcribe it.
Mhm. That's
And
it's never
that's
good.
just like
Yeah.
it's an extra step. Like, it's not great. It's not a good process at all. It's fine because then I take that file and move it to my NAS, but I mean I could just move it to my NAS from my iPad, but it's not great. I really hope the iPad version comes back, or at least another kind of app like this pops up. Every other app that I've kind of looked for on the iPad that does this is very scammy and not kind of the same quality and
Yeah.
style as Mac Whisper.
Yeah, there are some apps that do the same thing. I mean, the models are available to anyone. Like a lot of these are open source. But yeah, I agree. For whatever reason, the ones that are available on iOS and iPadOS, they don't match Mac Whisper in quality or
Yeah,
reliability.
100%. All right. Well, that just about does it for the show. Huge thank you to Mac Stories for having us. We are a Mac Stories podcast. After all, go check out the other shows on the network. There's some
Check 'em
great
out.
stuff happening, especially because as of right now, John Voorhees and Brenda Bigley are at CES right
Oh
now.
yeah.
I'm a little jealous. I was originally planning on going this year, but I had to bail at the last minute. So I'm probably check out Next Portable Computer or Next Portable Console. I heard NPC and I thought computer for a second with all their stuff. Matt, you have anything you want to promote before we jump off?
You should go check out my video I made about the monitor. If you're like, I want to hear that again, but with video, there you go. And I think I explained the retina thing in more clarity there, less off the cuff. I had an actual script for that one to make sure I said things right. But yeah,
Nice,
same answers every
nice.
time. Check out my YouTube.
Yeah, check out my YouTube. I'm going to have a lot of stuff coming out here in the next few days or so. So be sure to check that out. Thank you all so much for listening. Have a great day.